All right, so today we are going really deep.
Deep, deep.
Yeah, into Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations.
Right.
But not like a dusty old history lesson.
No, not at all.
This is about like right now stuff
It is.
with, a second Trump presidency just weeks away.
Yeah. How does this book from centuries ago help us make sense of where we are?
Exactly. So
It's wild, actually.
yeah, so
if you think about it.
okay, for anyone who hasn't actually read Wealth of Nations, what is like the short version?
Yeah, what's the deal?
Why should we care what this guy from like the 1700s thought about money and stuff?
Right. So Smith was really trying to figure out like the DNA of wealth, right? Where does it come from? How does it move around? What role does the government play?
Yeah.
And he was writing during a time of massive change, kind of like us.
Yeah.
Where the old rules were being thrown out.
Yeah. And one of the things that really struck me was his observation about coins.
Oh, yeah.
Like how they started as this promise. This little disc equals X amount of gold or whatever.
Like a guarantee of value.
But then rulers started like messing with that.
Oh, totally. Yeah, they would shave off the edges.
Yeah.
Melt them down, mix in cheaper metals.
Yeah.
Which seems subtle, but it's basically like a sneaky tax.
Yeah.
The king gets to make more coins, but they're actually worth less.
Yeah. So it's like, what if today the government said, okay, $1 is now 50 cents? Like chaos.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the Scots pound that Smith talks about.
Yeah.
Because of that kind of manipulation.
Right.
It ended up being worth like a tiny fraction of what it originally was.
Right.
So the takeaway is messing with the integrity of money has big consequences.
Yeah. And this connects to Trump's day one promise, right?
Yeah.
The huge tax cuts for billionaires. How does that impact the value of our money? Like,
yeah, that is the question. I mean, Smith would probably say that any policy, even tax cuts, if it dramatically increases how much money's out there, but we're not producing more stuff, you risk inflation.
Yeah.
It's like debasing the currency in a new way.
Right. So it's not just about like the physical coins anymore.
Right. Exactly.
It's the whole
system.
Yeah, the whole balance.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, but Smith didn't just focus on like money itself, right?
No.
He had this idea about the real price of things.
Yeah, the real price.
Being tied to labor.
Absolutely. This is a core idea for him.
Yeah.
The true value of something isn't how much gold you can trade for it, but the amount of labor it took to make it.
Yeah, yeah.
So think about like a loaf of bread.
Right, it's simple.
Yeah, it's worth.
Yeah.
Reflects all the work.
Yeah.
Planting the wheat.
Harvesting it.
Harvesting, milling, baking, transporting, you name it.
Right. And even today, we talk about like earning a living, right?
Right.
Like our work is
it's the currency.
Currency we use to
trade.
Yeah. Yeah. But how does this idea hold up in like the age of Musk and AI, right?
That's the question.
We've got robots building cars.
Right. Algorithms writing code.
Yeah, where does
where does the labor go?
Yeah, where does it fit?
It's a big question. And Smith couldn't have predicted AI.
Right.
But his framework, I think, is still really useful.
Okay.
If machines are doing jobs that humans used to do, the value shifts.
Yeah.
Maybe the value is now in designing those machines,
the
people who maintain them, the coders behind the AI.
So it's not that labor like disappears.
It transforms.
It changes form.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating is that Smith specifically says like a butcher doesn't think this meat is worth X pounds of bread.
Right.
We use money as this like shortcut.
It's like a symbol.
But the underlying labor is always there.
It's always there.
Yeah. And I think that raises a really good question.
Yeah.
For all of us listening.
Like, all of us, yeah.
When you think about your job, how much of it is about trading your labor for something else?
It's a good question.
Does that change how you view its value?
It might.
That's a really good point.
Okay.
So moving on.
Okay.
Smith also like dug into this difference between profits and wages.
Profits versus wages.
Which gets right to the heart of like some modern debates.
Some real hot button issues.
Yeah, yeah.
So he saw this disconnect.
Yeah.
The owner of a business can make tons of profit.
Yeah.
Even if they're not the one breaking their back doing the work.
Right.
And he argued that profit is often tied to how much capital they've invested.
Yeah.
Not how hard they're working.
So like if someone inherits $1 million and invests it, they're already miles ahead.
Right.
Even if they're working the same hours as someone making minimum wage.
It's not a level playing field. Right, right.
And think about his example.
Yeah.
2 factories.
Okay.
One uses cheap materials, simple tools.
Mm-hmm.
The other needs expensive, specialized equipment.
Okay.
Both owners put in similar effort.
Right.
But the one with the bigger initial investment makes way more profit.
Simply because...
Just because they had more to begin with.
Wow. So is he saying that that's, like, unfair?
He doesn't say unfair.
Okay.
But he points out
Yeah.
that this creates massive wealth disparities.
Right.
And we are seeing that play out today, especially with tech giants and all this wealth concentrated in the hands of just a few people.
And which brings us back to Trump's tax cuts.
It always comes back to that.
Yeah. If they get even more money to invest.
Right.
Doesn't that worsen this gap between profits and wages?
It's certainly possible, yeah.
Yeah, he was concerned about that.
I think he would be.
Yeah, if a small group controls most of the capital, they benefit the most.
They're set up to win.
Yeah.
And the people who depend on wages might not see their income rise as much.
Right. It creates a very uneven
playing field. Yeah. And this kind of ties into another one of Smith's big ideas.
Okay.
The invisible hand of the free market.
Right.
He was saying, like, in a lot of cases, the government should back off. Let supply and demand do their thing.
Okay, so that sounds very MAGA, right?
Right. Less government, more freedom for businesses.
Yeah.
But it's easy to oversimplify.
Okay.
Smith wasn't saying no government at all.
Right.
He saw some roles where it's super important.
Okay, like what?
Things like infrastructure.
Okay.
Education, defense.
Okay, things
the market wouldn't handle on its own.
Right, like a private company's not going to build a highway system.
Right.
Just out of the goodness of their heart.
Exactly. But without roads.
Right.
Trade and all that gets really hard.
Okay, so he wasn't like a total libertarian.
No, not at all.
Right. He saw the need for some government.
Right. And he actually was really critical of the East India Company, which basically had a monopoly.
They did on trade with India.
Yeah, he said that.
He said it was bad for competition. Hurt consumers, hurt the Indian economy.
Right, right.
The European economy.
And that's interesting because it connects to what we hear today about big tech.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Musk's companies having too much power.
Yeah, like are they stifling innovation?
Yeah.
Smith would not like that.
Okay.
He thought monopolies mess up the market. And everyone loses except the guys at the top.
Right. He was all about
competition.
Competition as the driver of progress.
Exactly. Makes things better for everybody.
Okay. So free markets.
Yeah.
But with the government stepping in sometimes.
When it's needed. Yeah.
When it's needed. Okay. So what about this idea of societal wealth?
Societal wealth, yeah.
Wasn't he all about, like, individual striving and getting rich?
Yeah. He definitely valued individual effort, but he also knew a nation's wealth isn't just about how much money a few people have.
Right.
It's about how well off everyone is.
So it's not just the size of the pie, but how it's sliced.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Right. And he was writing when feudalism was ending.
Right. Where a tiny elite owned everything.
And he saw
how that stifled progress kept most people in poverty.
So he believed in a more like equitable...
Yeah, a fairer distribution of wealth.
Yeah.
He thought when more people can participate in the economy, everyone benefits.
Okay.
More innovation, higher productivity, a more stable society.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it feels like we're going in the opposite direction.
In some ways, yeah.
The gap between the rich and everyone else is getting bigger.
It is.
And things like these giant tax cuts for billionaires, they seem to make it worse.
That's the question, isn't it? Would Smith see all this as progress?
Right.
Or something to be worried about?
Yeah, because he did see that shift away from feudalism.
He did.
Which took forever.
Centuries.
And was messy.
Yeah. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't just changing laws. It was changing how people thought.
Right.
Creating a system where everybody had a chance.
And it makes you wonder what he'd say about Trump's day one pledge.
Right.
If those cuts mainly help the super rich.
Yeah.
What would he say about the long-term impact?
On the whole economy.
Yeah, on society.
Yeah, it's tough to know for sure.
Right.
But he would probably look at it through the lens of effectual demand.
Okay, we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, if a small group suddenly has way more money to spend, their demand for certain things goes up.
Okay.
Which can make prices go up.
Okay.
But does that benefit everyone else?
Right, that's like the big question.
That is the question, yeah.
It gets to the heart of the debate we're having now.
Yeah, are we all getting lifted up?
Or are the yachts just getting fancier?
Yeah, exactly.
And we're all stuck treading water.
Yeah, I think Smith would be cautious about policies that only help a few.
Right.
He knew inequality is dangerous.
Yeah.
A healthy economy needs balance.
Yeah.
And a degree of fairness.
So he wouldn't be on board with trickle-down economics.
He'd be skeptical, I think.
Okay.
He might point out that moving away from feudalism did lead to more freedom, more opportunity for a lot of people, but it took a long time.
Right.
And wasn't always smooth.
Right. It was bumpy.
It was bumpy, yeah.
Okay.
I think he'd want a more careful approach, one that looks at a long-term effects on everybody.
Not just the people at the top.
Not just the top.
So while he was all about free markets,
he was.
He also knew they needed some managing.
They do.
To make sure things are fair.
Right.
And everybody has a shot.
Exactly. He saw the government's role.
Okay.
Not as stifling individual initiative, but as setting up the conditions for a thriving and equitable society.
Like setting the ground rules.
Yeah, like the rules of the game.
So everyone can play.
So everyone has a chance, yeah.
I'm starting to see how Wealth of Nations
yeah.
isn't just about dry economic theory.
It's deeper than that.
It's about, like, the kind of world we want to live in.
It is.
The values.
It's about values, for sure.
That we want to prioritize.
Yeah, what matters to us.
Right, and that's what makes it...
I think so.
...so relevant today.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got all these similar chapters.
We do technology changing everything.
Yeah, political division.
Yeah, inequality.
Yeah, yeah.
His insights can help us navigate all this complexity.
Make better choices.
Make choices that lead to a better future.
Right, for everyone.
Yeah.
For everyone, yeah.
But with all this talk about Trump and MAGA and even Musk and his companies, are we maybe oversimplifying things?
It's possible.
Smith was writing in a totally different time. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
We have to remember that context. Yeah. But what's amazing about Wealth of Nations is that it goes beyond its time.
Okay.
The basic principles, the importance of labor, the balance between government and free markets, the need for fairness, opportunity, those are timeless ideas.
So even though the world has changed so much
dramatically
since his time,
the
questions he was asking,
they're still with us.
Are still relevant.
They are, yeah. And maybe even more urgent now.
Okay, how so?
Well, we're on the edge of this AI revolution.
Right.
And the choices we make now will shape what kind of society we have.
For ourselves.
For our kids.
For generations to come.
Exactly.
It sounds like we need to be having these conversations.
We do.
Now more than ever.
More than ever, yeah.
But Wealth of Nations.
Yeah.
It can be intimidating.
It can be.
It's not exactly like a beach read.
No, not really.
Right.
It's dense.
Yeah.
But what we've tried to do today is pull out the most important insights.
Right, the stuff that matters most.
The stuff that matters most right now.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest takeaway is that economics isn't just about numbers and graphs.
Right.
It's about people.
Okay.
It's about how we organize ourselves to create a world where everyone can thrive.
Yeah, and making choices, right?
Yeah, choices.
Both as individuals and as a society that can actually, like, lead to that better future.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Making informed decisions, whether it's voting, advocating for policies, or even just like how we spend our money.
Right.
Understanding these ideas,
principles,
can help us actually make a difference.
Like that saying, knowledge is power.
It is.
But only if you use it.
You got to use it.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just trivia.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key takeaway.
I agree.
From our deep dive into Wealth of Nations, Smith wasn't just some, like...
number cruncher.
Yeah, number-crunching economist.
He was a moral philosopher.
Okay.
He thought economic systems should serve a purpose.
So he saw the connection between economics and
human well-being.
Yeah, like how people are actually doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. He believed a healthy economy should give people chances to flourish, to pursue their goals, and also contribute to the common good.
Right.
He wouldn't be into a system that just benefits a few.
At the expense of everyone else.
At the expense of everyone else, exactly.
Okay, so back to the challenges we're facing now.
Yeah.
Second Trump presidency coming up.
Yeah.
We got Musk pushing the boundaries of tech.
Pushing it.
Are we heading toward a more, like, fair and prosperous future?
That's the question.
Or are we going to repeat the mistakes?
The mistakes of the past.
Of the past, yeah.
It's up to us.
And I think Smith's work gives us a way
A framework.
to think critically about all this.
It does.
Like, he's like, hey, think about the long-term
a long game.
consequences of your choices.
For choices.
Question your assumptions.
Don't just take things for granted.
Yeah, and fight for policies.
Policies that are fair.
Yeah, that give everyone a chance.
Exactly. A level playing field.
So if Adam Smith were here today...
Yeah, he could see all this.
Yeah, watching Maggie and Musk and AI.
What would he think?
Yeah. What would he be most worried about?
I think he'd be fascinated by AI.
Okay.
All its potential. But also worried about it making inequality worse.
Okay, yeah.
He might point to all the wealth and power in the hands of these tech giants.
Yeah.
And ask, is this really good for everybody?
And what about Trump's economic policies?
Oh, interesting.
Right. The tax cuts for billionaires.
The trade wars, yeah.
Would Smith be into that?
I think he'd be cautious.
Okay.
About anything that helps the wealthy so much.
Right.
That it might hurt the middle class.
The working class.
The working poor, yeah.
Yeah.
He'd probably say we should invest in education, infrastructure, things like that.
The things that help everybody.
Exactly. That build a foundation.
For widespread prosperity.
Widespread, yeah. He wouldn't want a few winners.
And a lot of losers.
And a lot of losers, yeah.
Okay, so maybe he wouldn't have all the answers.
You wouldn't.
But his work gives us some principles.
Principles to guide us.
To guide our thinking.
Or decision-making, yeah.
He's reminding us.
Reminding us.
That economics is about people.
It is.
About the choices we make.
The choices we make.
And creating a world where everyone can thrive.
A world where everyone has a chance.
That's a great note to end on.
It is.
So for our listeners who are like,
yeah,
ready to tackle wealth of nations.
And you want to dive in.
Yeah. What advice would you give them?
Don't be scared of it.
Okay.
It's long. It's complex.
Yeah.
Focus on those key ideas we talked about today.
Okay.
And think about how they apply to you. To your life. To your community. To the world.
To the big picture.
Yeah, ask questions.
Yeah.
Challenge what you think you know.
Don't just take things at face value.
Exactly. Talk to people.
Yeah, have those conversations.
The more we understand all this,
yeah,
the better choices we can make.
About the future we're building?
About the future, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
On this deep dive.
A deep dive.
Into Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations.
One of the great.
And to our listeners.
Keep learning.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.
Until next time.
We'll see you then.